So the divine particle. Yeah, right. Um, yeah, you can kind of think of it like, um, yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but like you can kind of see it like different realities that is separate from source in a way. Um, and to put that in the most practical terms that I can think of, is kind of like uh, a human has their um, own experience through their own body. Maybe we can actually take cat and human too as an example. Like the cat has its own kind of system, so it's gonna have a different experience about what life is, kind of his own virtual reality that makes like, I can see like a cat, I can see some other colors, I can see in the speed and so forth. The human has another one, right? That's probably the most practical way I can think of right now. Like, and probably if I want to think even larger on it, maybe we could say that this universe uh, where we experience space and time, maybe there's other like a multiverse with more universes that have kind of different rules, kind of time. Maybe time and space is there too, but functions somewhat differently. For example, it's just an example for if you want to think even larger on it. Yeah. Um, yeah. So this function is actually about the ability to see manifested detail. Um, so the detail of a timeline or history, like what actually happened in this timeline, or what actually happened in this event, or in this virtual reality. What is actually the case in this virtual reality? Like, how does it actually function? Yeah. Um, and also it's the detail of a local focus. So it's kind of like if you want to remember something, you kind of localize your focus into the memory, and you kind of get the details in an accurate sense, right? Because you, SI kind of have this precision when it comes to localized data. So it kind of struggles with connecting data between a lot of places, right? But in its own bubble, it can see the detail exactly as it is, right? Yeah, yeah. So it's related to the identity of separate data. So we can think like, okay, if the quantum manifests these particles over here, and it's like 10 particles in a very specific shape or way, the SI would locate, oh, this looks exactly like this, manifested exactly like this. It's the identity, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so it's related to experience within time and space. It's actually a long time ago I've written all this, so I kind of have to remember as I speak. Yeah, so it's the ability to perceive and relate with the VR. So you can basically experience the VR, the virtual reality. If you're a cat, and if you're a cat, you have the ability to experience reality exactly like a cat, because you are kind of tuned into the local data or local identity of how this works, right? So you're kind of identifying with the experience, and that's why you have it. So the cat will always believe that he is a cat, and actually probably forced to believe it in a way prior to the conscious mind. So the cat is kind of forced to believe that he is a cat until he dies, and that's kind of that's supposed to happen. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Okay. Yeah, so it's strongly related to and synonym with synonym, yeah, same with loops and habits and beliefs and bodies. So what I actually believe is that, yeah, I've been using a cat as yeah, sure, we can use a cat. So the cat will have her own body, right? And own beliefs and own habits and own loops. And the kind of the body is kind of the base. Actually, that's kind of weird because all of these are kind of habits. That's habit is kind of the base thing. So you have beliefs are also a habit of thought. It's a thought that goes habitually in loop. So the cat believes that he is a cat, which is also a belief, essentially. The belief in the body is very interconnected, but you have, of course, beliefs also that the cat made, the personal cat made in the life of being a cat, which shapes the personality of the cat, right? While you also have beliefs that shapes the body of the cat, and these beliefs are basically DNA, basically, right? I know it's a kind of weird way to think, but it might make sense if we think more on it. Yeah. So it's kind of SI is kind of like a loop in a way. You kind of maybe the particle actually just loops around itself. That's also a theory. And that makes it solid, right? And a habit kind of makes stability. It's kind of solid. It goes again and again, again. It's kind of believing the same over and over and over, or doing the same over and over and over. Yeah. And also, I think SI is kind of also related to Mother Earth. Actually, you could look at Mother Earth like a particle in a way. So the Earth has its own kind of system, and it's like yeah, Earth basically. SI could also be called Earth. It's very stable and very and when you have SI as a human, you kind of you're able to see how the virtual reality functions. So you are able to see how Mother Earth is more related to you than others would know. Like go out in nature because it makes you more happy and healthy. That's a very like SI intuition, right? Yeah, my mother does that all the time. She's an ESFJ, and she didn't read articles about it's healthy to walk out in nature and that stuff. She knew that intuitively because I think she intuitively knows how the VR functions, the virtual reality that we are located in, basically. Yeah. So the idea is that the SI is kind of the subconscious body of everything. It's kind of sleeping thoughts, just going as it is. It just wants to stay as it is. That's kind of the only job the SI have is actually to stay stable, to stay as it is. And no, somebody could say that maybe that's the same as survival, right? Because kind of you could say that a species does the same over and over and over because it knows that at least in the past it worked. It survived. The species survived because it did the same as it always did. So survival is kind of relevant for SI, though I don't think survival is the core of SI. I think it's more like a byproduct in a way. So I think SI in more just a clean sense, you just want to stay as it is, and that's actually a good thing. We often we think it's a bad thing, but well, it's a neutral thing, actually. It's a neutral thing because it can be good and it can be bad to stay the same as one is. Like, yeah, it can be both good and bad. Like, it's bad in addiction and it's good if you go to exercise in a stable way, for example. That's a very healthy habit and a healthy way to stay the same. Yeah, that's what I said before. That SI in humans and in living organisms, when they have the SI cognition, because as you probably understood, I've been describing it more like as solid substance, and that is what it is, kind of. But if you are an SI person, an SI personality, it's more like it's your perception of the solid things and kind of concrete things that is possible to locate. Yeah. Yeah, which basically translates into knowing how the virtual reality that you are experiencing is actually functioning. How our body is functioning, for instance. Yeah, or how actually how movement and time functions in a way. Also. Okay. Yeah, and also it actually can help manifestation as well, though that's kind of an indirect effect. So, for example, if you use habits as a way to get stronger because you get to the gym and you establish this habit that makes you like do it actually automatically, you start to live that experience in the automatic sense. And that can help you manifest an outcome that you wanted, like getting more buff or disciplinating yourself in some kind of profession, for instance, so you learn how to be that person. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it was Carl Jung who said this, not sure, but like to heal, we need to make our subconscious conscious, and that is I pull that up because it kind of makes us understand why SI is very important to us. Because if we have subconscious programs kind of just going in our body or in our psychology or in the world or everywhere, and we actually kind of don't see it, we can't change it, right? So we got to see it. We got to see what is actually going on here, and then we can apply change to the habits, right? So you can see that. For instance, if you would be a bully, for instance, you gotta kind of recognize there is some kind of tendencies, just I'm doing them automatically, right? And I'm being a bully, and if I don't see that I am doing that, I can't actually change it. I gotta like confess to myself that that's actually what's going on in this structure that I am living in, and then you can apply change to the structure. Yeah, so it's very important to have this perception of what is actually going on in the virtual reality. Yeah, which is very related to shadow work, which is kind of the main thing about Carl Jung typology, right? So it's kind of about not kind of recognizing that we are not whole, or we don't use our psychology in the best way possible, and we might give too little importance to certain functions. So shadow work is actually about looking into your structure. What is there? What is going on? And then you can transform these habits. So you can make a habit that makes you able to focus more on functions that you didn't respect or didn't even know existed before, for instance. Okay. So the existential purpose of SI, because in this theory I always look for what is the purpose, why is it here, and the actual purpose of SI is to allow ourselves to have an experience. And why do we want that? I think kind of consciousness or souls or what lives kind of wants to have experiences for whatever reason. Maybe love, maybe fun, maybe both. I'm probably going to talk more about that actually in further down the line. Yeah, and it is assuring stability over time, this SI function. So what that actually means is like it's our capacity to habituate something good, some like heaven, like the capacity to live in a stable environment where everything is ideal as we want it to be, right? So what I like, just an insight I came to myself, is like the hell has to be once, while heaven is forever. And by that I mean, like, if you burn your finger on a stove, you don't need to do that over and over again. So you can kind of, if you did burn your finger on the stove over and over again, you can find out that you are actually doing it, and you can stop doing it by changing the habit of doing that. And if you didn't have the habit, you could just try it out, like, I don't like this, and you could just focus away from it, like you don't have to do it again, and you wouldn't live in that same hell over and over, right? While you can choose what you like to do and do it over and over, like giving love to yourself and others, for just a very base example. Okay, so all individual and collective consciousness needs to forget their origin in order to birth. Yeah, that is probably reason why SI has to be a thing, is because for all individuals and collectives to actually exist, they have to forget that they are. That's just a theory. Also, I don't know if that's true, but let's see if let's say if every conscious being is actually kind of God, they have to forget that they are God, right? So God can be inside all these different organisms and have an experience. I think it's actually like that, but I don't think when we die, I don't think we go back to being God, but I think when we die, we go back to being a soul, or like, I see more dimensions to reality than just this one. So it's more like when you die, you get to your soul, and you see, I lived many lives. I've been helping to produce this human experience that we have, for instance, or Earth experience. That's kind of, I can go more into that later. And I don't know if that's true. That's just again, just a part of my intuitions, and not all intuitions I have is accurate, even though I feel like I'm good at it. I'm pretty sure that it has to be by somewhere, right? Because intuition by definition is hard to get completely precise. Yeah. Yeah, so SI actually may be considered son of God, or like God's son, right? Like kind of like Jesus in a way. Basically, it's kind of the product of God making reality, like creating us in his image or whatever kind of idea. So yeah, it's kind of rooms or servers for souls. You can say perhaps even the soul itself is kind of this SI bubble, and not as physical, that like a human body, but a soul may also have its own body that is somewhat separate. But I think when we are soul, we are also very, very aware of not being separate with the rest, even if we are separate.